Charlie Johnson's band, resident at Small's Paradise in Harlem throughout much of the 1920s, never achieved widespread attention in the same way as the bands of Ellington, Calloway, and Henderson. On one level, it's easy to understand why, given their lack of a unifying personality or publicly acclaimed style. Johnson himself was known for going missing from the bandstand during gigs, and left the musical direction up to his banjo player, Bobby Johnson, no relation. And yet the recordings the Paradise Band left behind have been revered by jazz fans ever since. I think the value in these records is most often thought to be in the hot playing of musicians like Jimmy Harrison, Jabbo Smith, and Cyrus St. Clair, but the band's arrangements are surprisingly rich and sophisticated. In this video, I hope to bring into sharper focus the exciting tension that results when the loose, even rough hotness of Johnson's musicians meets the clever architecture of his arrangers. Johnson's arrangements usually came from the saxophone section, which for a time consisted of the three Bens, Ben Whitted, Benny Carter, and Benny Waters, all of whom arranged for the band. When Edgar Sampson joined the band, it seems likely he might have also contributed arrangements, given his later career. It's only natural that these reedmen not only wrote well for their own instruments, but also chose to feature them. The clarinet trio was a common device for 1920s bands, going back to Don Redman's early arrangements for Fletcher Henderson, but the Johnson Band employed it frequently and particularly effectively. Here the clarinet trio sounds positively sinister on The Boy in the Boat. Young Benny Carter, just beginning his illustrious arranging career, featured the saxophone section on Charleston is the Best Dance After All. Notice how Carter's arrangement really pushes the musicians technically and harmonically, and the effect is quite like a harmonized Carter solo. I discussed this approach in my video about arranging for sax section. While the brass players in the Johnson Band may not have been arrangers, they more than pulled their weight as soloists. The trumpets, for instance, included Thomas Morris, Jabbo Smith, Sidney DeParis, and Leonard Davis, all wonderful players. They featured a loose approach to section work, not seeking to form a homogeneous section sound, but instead expressing themselves as a loose collection of wild individuals. Have a listen to the trumpet duet on Hot Tempered Blues, noting how Jabbo Smith's second trumpet part breaks away to phrase separately from the lead. Musicians might be interested by the unusual harmony choices too, particularly the close interval in the fourth bar. Here's another example from the verse of Carter's arrangement of You Ain't the One. Again, the second trumpet breaks free at times. These are no simple reading errors, they demonstrate a desire for self-expression. Here again, there are atypical harmony choices, where the obvious second harmony part is missing, with Jabbo instead relying on fifths rather than thirds. Did Carter originally arrange this for three trumpets, perhaps? The Johnson Band used background riffs to provide rhythmic energy behind soloists. This was already common in the 1920s, but it became ubiquitous in the 1930s through the influence of bands like Count Basie's. There's an art to using riffs effectively. If they are too complex, they tend to crowd out soloists instead of supporting them. Let's hear Jimmy Harrison's trombone on The Boy in the Boat, backed by clarinet riffs that echo his declamatory preaching style. And here's Benny Waters playing the tenor solo on You Ain't the One, with brass riffs providing structure like punctuation marks. Dominant ninth chords weren't new for arrangers in the mid to late 20s, but they were increasingly using them in different ways. Composed and arranged by Benny Waters, Harlem Drag incorporates ninth chords as tonal color in the voicing of the full horn lineup. Instead of serving moving melodic lines, leaving the ninth hanging in the air like this creates a thicker ensemble sound under Ben Whittard's clarinet solo. Benny Carter frequently employed ninth chords in his arrangements too, especially in rising and falling introduction and modulation passages. Here are two examples from You Ain't the One. Only recently discovered, the Johnson recording of Molasses makes extensive use of ninth chords. The arrangement is listed in discographies as the work of Benny Waters. However, others claim that Carter was the only Johnson arranger capable of writing something like this in 1929. But Waters did discuss his study of functional harmony in interviews at some length. Have a listen to the ninth chord hanging in the air in this example from Molasses. I think it's quite similar to the example we heard by Waters from Harlem Drag, so I'd say the jury's out. While the Johnson Band did play from complex written arrangements, albeit with their own loose approach, they also incorporated ad-lib ensembles too, in which some or all of the horns improvise collectively. Here they are reaching a freewheeling climax on Don't You Leave Me Here. Charlie Johnson's sidemen rarely offered positive reviews of their leader's piano playing, but recorded evidence suggests he was a pretty good musician, if erratic in tempo. Fortunately, the other members of the rhythm section were more reliable. Bobby Johnson provided busy and assertive rhythm banjo and boisterous solos, while George Stafford was a dazzling drummer who excelled at supporting soloists and ensembles with complex fills. It's perhaps the tuba players who get the most attention from jazz fans, though. Cyrus St. Clair, and later Billy Taylor, played tuba in a way that belies the old myth about the instrument being unswinging. The band's arrangers frequently featured the tuba in interludes and modulations, during which St. Clair and Taylor steal the limelight away from the horns. On Birmingham Black Bottom from 1927, the band achieves a remarkable 4-beat feel through St. Clair's tuba, dispelling another myth, that jazz bands played in too until the swing era. Singer Manette Moore contributed vocals on 2 Johnson recording sessions, in each case perfectly combining informality and majesty. Here she is with plenty of attitude on Don't You Leave Me Here.
So if you got a man and he wants to fight, take a chair, break it over his head and walk the streets all night. Don't you leave me here, a good gal I've been. And if you ain't coming back, sweet papa, leave a dime for a pin.
While Edgar Sampson later became a key member of the Johnson saxophone section, his violin solos on his debut session demonstrate that he was a real talent on that instrument as well. Have a listen to his unique approach to the violin on Hot Tempered Blues. Understanding the Charlie Johnson Band's records means confronting their contradictory nature. The band achieved a loose, sometimes even chaotic sound, while playing from cleverly arranged orchestrations. They followed uncompromising jazz ideals and featured hot solos, without ever losing their sense of fun and novelty. Even the longevity of the musicians provides an astonishing contrast, with some, like Jimmy Harrison, barely surviving into the 1930s, while Benny Waters lived until 1998, and Benny Carter 2003. Ultimately, Charlie Johnson's band provides a welcome example of how we might walk the line between seemingly opposing ideas, drawing on each to create music with lasting appeal.